Hello and welcome to the Nurburgring, where I'm here to drive the Lamborghini Huracan EVO in the company of a lot of hotheads in supercars. Quite a bold statement by Lamborghini, but it wants to be here, surrounded by 911 GT3 owners, and tempt some of these kind of hardcore track day users from their regular Porsches and all those kind of things into Lamborghinis, which are not traditionally known as a track car. Now, the Huracan EVO is, as the name suggests, an evolution of the Huracan 610. It takes in some of the stuff they learned on the Performante, but this is still the regular Huracan, not the kind of track-focused version. What have they added? Well, it's got a 640 horsepower version of the naturally aspirated V10 Screamer. That's a good thing. It's got the titanium inlet valves and exhaust from the Performante. It adds things like four-wheel steering and a whole load of technological gubbins controlling it via the gyroscopes and accelerometers in the centre of the car that were a feature of the original Huracan but are now on version 2.0 for this new EVO. A lot to talk about on the car, but there's a track out there full of Porsche owners and I think we need to go chasing them. Right, so welcome to the Lamborghini Huracan EVO, because adding EVO to the name of the car instantly makes it sound cooler, doesn't it? So, what have they actually done to this car? Because from the outside, it doesn't look a whole lot different. It's still got the same 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10, albeit with a little bit more power and some bits from the Performante. It's still got dynamic steering and all that kind of thing. But it's got this fancy new Lamborghini Dinamica Veicolo Integrate. Sorry for my Italian. And the whole point of this system is that it's supposed to be feed forward, which is of course the opposite of feed back. So it's interesting in this car because some of the criticisms of the original Huracan, which I remember driving on the launch, were that it's got this amazing engine, all that emotion and all that kind of thing, but the chassis and the steering were never really quite up to it, and the whole thing was just a bit inert. So Lamborghini responded to that, and of course we had the Performante, and now we have this EVO, which hopes to take it a stage further. So the idea with this feed forward thing is that the car will anticipate and set itself up for the corners using all that four-wheel steering, the magnetic dampers, the dynamic variable ratio steering at the front, all these other features. LDVI coordinates all that and kind of thinks ahead for you. Now, it's a very different approach from, say, McLaren, which does much more kind of old school approach of hydraulic steering, minimal gizmos, all that kind of thing. And I have to say, instinctively, that is my preference in a car like this. I like to be able to feel what's going on rather than have all kind of lots of tricksy gizmos doing stuff. But what Lamborghini is trying to do with this car is get a sense of the Performante's focus into the regular Huracan. And it is a very different feeling car. So where the original Huracan was a bit of a, as I say, it was a great engine in search of a good car. Now, there is more sense of that Performante attitude. My biggest criticism of the original Huracan was the steering, which just felt super vague. And when you drive this car in the standard Strada mode, it does still feel somewhat disconnected and imprecise, but when you ramp it up into Corsa, all of a sudden you get that sense of Performante agility, which is really impressive, although it's done differently, because in the Performante it's done through aero, in this car it's done through the four-wheel steering and things like that. Now, the steering still doesn't feel as honest as, say, a McLaren or a Porsche, but it's a lot quicker now. still wants to push at the front end, and if I'm going to moan, I still hate the fact that Lamborghini doesn't let you left foot brake. So like all VW products, if you left foot brake and try and pick up the throttle, there's a hesitation, it cuts the engine, which is really, really annoying in a car like this, where you might want to just, especially if you're a corner through like miss hit miss there, where you might want to just weight up the front end a little bit and balance it on the throttle. You pick up the throttle and there's nothing there, so that is annoying. But Lamborghini does it in all its cars, even its kind of track focused ones, so I guess it's just one of those things you have to live with. But just listen to that engine. I've been trying to be kind of objective and kind of sensible about this, but there's only so much being sensible and rational you can deliver when you're driving a Lamborghini around the Nurburgring, because this is an epic experience, and that's really what a supercar should be about, isn't it? It's an experience. So I'm following Marco, the R&D driver up here. He's in another Evo, and I can see his exhaust glowing red hot. I can hear his car even over mine. You know, there's loads and loads of 911 GT3s, GT3 RSs here at this event. But Lamborghini's offering something a bit different, and for them to be putting the regular Huracan here in a kind of track atmosphere is quite a bold statement of intent for the brand, for the car. And remember, this is the regular Huracan, not the Performante, not the track one. So I think Evo is a suitable name for this car, because it really does take the good stuff that was already there in the Huracan. That engine! Amazing. And then kind of actually add some substance that was lacking in the previous one, the 610, because now it's still not, I don't think it's not a car that McLaren or Porsche drivers will think is equivalent in terms of purity of response and feedback and things like that. Lamborghini says it wants to make this kind of driving easy, and the Huracan EVO certainly does that, but it doesn't make it boring. That's always the risk, isn't it? Right, I've got a hard charging GT3 RS behind me, East Cross. There we go, mate, off you go, fill your boots. Yeah, so what was I saying? It makes this kind of driving easy, but it doesn't make it boring. And I think that's the real achievement, because I think if there was a criticism of the previous Huracan, it was just that it made it had the style, it had the noise, it had the sense of passion, but it never quite delivered on the substance. And that seems to be what they've addressed this time round. So I think there's a greater bandwidth in the different modes. So when you're in Strada or Sport, it feels more like the previous Huracan, but when you go into Corsa, there's more than a whiff of Performante about this car. It's not the full hardcore track experience, but it's near enough. And now you've got kind of almost 3 Huracans in one with this car, which is, I think that's a really, that's a big step up. So although the looks and the whole package don't seem to be too drastically different, I think there's a much broader bandwidth in this car. Right, I'm going to concentrate. Plan start. In we go. Down a gear. I've got to say, it might be a little dumbed down compared with some of the more hardcore, like a 600 LT, for instance. But the fact that Lamborghini still has a really noisy, high-revving, naturally aspirated engine in this market is still a standout feature. And it makes the whole experience, because let's face it, we're not all ring lap time heroes, are we? We just want to come out here and have an exciting few laps around without feeling like we're scaring ourselves, and that's what this car delivers on. You feel like you can push yourself, feel like you can have some fun, but it doesn't feel too scary. And there we go. There's a lap of the Nurburgring in the Huracan EVO. I hope you got something from that. I'm going to try and catch up with Marco now.